With the Christmas season being right around the corner, what else is there to talk about other than the experience since my last view of the Polar Express back around December of 2019? As much as this film is a trip down memory lane, I can somewhat see how such a storybook to movie adaptation such as the Polar Express is something that people would want to forget about, after watching it at least one time. Once upon a time, the Polar Express was a storybook. After my mother would read it to me, I got the summary that it was about a boy and a group of kids going on a jolly late night train ride on Christmas Eve to the North Pole to see good old Saint Nick himself and his elves. If you're ever going for a storybook that could convey a basic theme about keeping the belief of Santa Claus alive in the memory of our younger generation, it's something that could keep the joy that kids would like to endure until after the holiday season has come to an end. But hypothetically speaking, how does such a storybook hold enough weight to become a piece of cinema with a minimum length of an hour and a half? My first impression is that it would seem impractical. Such a story would seem impossible to get to a duration of 1 hour and 30 minutes, at least. But let's get to some of the production details. This movie was directed by none other than Robert Zemeckis. He was also known for Forrest Gump, starring Tom Hanks, who voiced Woody in Toy Story, who also narrates the Polar Express movie and voices the conductor. And the soundtrack was also done by Glenn Ballard and Alan Silvestri. Alan also did the soundtrack for Forrest Gump. He was known for his musical composer for Mouse Hunt, Night at the Museum, and the 2009 Christmas Carol movie with Jim Carrey as the voice for Ebenezer Scrooge. They are quite similar for reasons that we are about to get to. But let's get to the story itself. The hero boy, that's who the kid is referred to. He doesn't have a name. But anyways, Tom Hanks is narrating from a first-person point of view, getting the hint that he's skeptical about Santa's existence, even going as far as to go downstairs in the middle of the night. He sees that the tree has no presents, the stockings are still empty, and the cookies and milk are out. While he thinks he sees Santa, it turns out that he overhears his sister talking to his parents about how her brother told her that he was unsure about Santa existing. He even tries to find records of any possible Santa sightings, while even looking through an encyclopedia about the possibilities of the North Pole being habitable for people, but the words he finds being stark, barren, and devoid of life. His parents checking in on him after possibly hearing any sounds of him thumping or making noise, kissing him goodnight, and by a minute after his parents leave, he's awoken to the sound of a train arriving in his neighborhood, hence the title of this movie, the conductor basically telling him to think about climbing on board. He thinks about it, and then he jumps aboard. Conductor lets him inside where it's warm, joyful kids everywhere, and then we are introduced to this monstrous CGI design. The smile. Isn't that marvelous? Uncanny Valley. Oh, she doesn't have a name. She's just referred to as the hero girl, and this jabbering little prick who talks like he knows everything about everything. Does anyone think he's a know-it-all? That's what he's referred to as. He doesn't have a name either, which kind of annoys me. If you're going to have a movie, at least give the characters some names. It's as simple as learning your ABCs or your 1, 2, 3s. We get an explanation that this is a magic train.
It's a magic train.
But that's the explanation we get. Even with some scenes that would defy basic physics or be too wild. I'm not trying to focus on too many details and include some things that are not too important, but let's get to the important details. We're then introduced to the shy kid. He's less fortunate, and I'm inclined to believe that he's supposed to be a metaphor for being more appreciative for what you have, because there are people who are not as fortunate, but who are more than grateful. Now with that being said, this isn't exactly the movie's theme that's being implied, but it should be a main theme for the holiday season. But this kid doesn't have a name either. Okay, he does, but we don't know until later on in the movie. Way too later. Until then, no one knows, and he's referred to in the cast as the Lonely Boy. But yeah, the hero kid stops the train so the kid can get on, the conductor gets on his ass, and then hot chocolate for all the passengers. Except for the kid who sits out. While the hero girl offers him some with the help of the conductor, she forgets her ticket, the conductor forgets to punch it, he loses it, and the conductor takes her with him. Being worried, the hero kid tries to find her, and he finds a hobo. Turns out, he's a ghost. The hobo tells the kid to keep the ticket in one of his slippers as he tries to find her. The kid doesn't believe in ghosts, apparently. Not only does he not believe in Santa, he's a doubter. They go skiing on top of a train as it's going down a hill, heading for what the hobo calls Flat Top Tunnel. I personally call it Dragon Breath Tunnel. because that was the name of a tunnel that was somewhat similar as in the movie Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. As the hero kid manages to make it for a coal hopper car, he finds the girl driving the train while the engineers are fixing the light for the locomotive. We don't know their names either. It says in the cast that their names are Smokey and Steamer, voiced by Michael Jeter, who died in 2003, but they're fixing the light and they see something in the distance. Steamer tells them to stop the train. The kid stops the train and they come across a herd of caribou. They manage to get them off the track and they're back to running the train again. Steamer keeps messing with the throttle in an aggressive manner, causing the locomotive to accelerate faster. In the process, the cotter pin slipping out of the throttle, causing it to break. And then we have a roller coaster ride, which probably would cause the train to slip off the track, but it's a magic train, don't worry. Lake of ice ahead, the sheet of ice breaks. The sheet of ice breaks, and they get the train off the lake in time, and the worst is over. Waiting to arrive to the North Pole, the kids find a coach full of damaged toys that Santa Claus and his elves take to apparently have them refurbished, and they're creepy as the Pinocchio. What the hell were the CGI specialists thinking? How is this even rated G? That Scrooge. This is PG material, I'm telling you. That clown. Parental guidance is suggested. Scary imagery. But the Scrooge marionette, being controlled by the hobo, tells the kid that he's a doubter, and that he's just like him in a way. Santa Claus, this train, all that magic, just a bunch of humbug. The hero kid finds the girl and the lonely kid singing, and they finally make it to the North Pole. The kid's still sitting in the caboose, doesn't want to participate, saying that Christmas just doesn't work out for him and that it never has. The kids accidentally pull down the lever to the coupler, causing the caboose to be sent off. The three are separated. The poor kid and the girl hear Santa's sleigh bell, which the kid still doesn't hear. They try to get back on time. The three kids find a present for someone named Billy, who we finally find out who this kid's name is. Another fun ride. They all land in a pile of Christmas presents from Santa. They go on a ride, and they have an aerial view of the North Pole, and the know-it-all was following them the whole time. And they arrive in town square. They see the conductor and the other kids, and the elves. Waiting to see Santa Claus, the kid doesn't hear the sleigh bells. He insists while talking to himself that he believes, as a sleigh bell falls off the sleigh, trying to ring it, saying that he believes, and he finally hears it. Santa approaches him and the kids, and he lets the main character have the first gift of Christmas. And the kid wants that bell as a present, a souvenir. They go home on the train. The kid realizes he put the bell in his pocket that had a hole in it, losing it on his sleigh. He's too late. The train is heading home. It's past 12 a.m. on December 25th. Billy returns home and finds the present at his house. He's happy. The kid returns home, still sad at the fact that he lost the bell. He wakes up with Santa's arrival and he has the bell, reminding him of Santa's existence, a souvenir. It says in the letter that the kid should fix that hole in his pocket, signed from Mr. Claus. The parents cannot hear it because they're grown. And then the movie ends with Tom's narration about the bell ringing for those who truly believe, and that's the end. Now, what do I think of the movie? It's dynamic, there's no doubt about that. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I like how it's a trip down memory lane, and the soundtrack and score has some good ones in there. I thought Believe by Josh Groban is good, it's listenable. So is the song When Christmas Comes to Town. But the Hot Chocolate song was mediocre. It's repetitive. A song about one hot beverage for everybody to enjoy around the holiday season. It's like the jingle for Liberty Mutual. Liberty, 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 liberty. And the Polar Express song I thought was pretty pointless too. Now let's talk about the theme and how the events tie into the theme and whatnot. Named the Polar Express, a train that goes all the way to the North Pole, about, again, believing in Santa Claus, the ride to the North Pole, believing in Santa, seeing is believing, but sometimes believing in things that you cannot see is enough, as what was referenced to by the conductor.
Seeing is believing. And sometimes, the most real things in the world are the things we can't see.
And the Scrooge. Freaky as it is, reminding him that he's a Scrooge because of his doubts about Santa's existence and the magic of Christmas, it's not exactly relatable. Scrooge is just greedy, okay? He's greedy. This kid is not exactly greedy, he just doesn't have belief in Santa Claus. That's not exactly comparable. Not exactly. And I don't think it takes a genius to mention the fact that this was Robert's inspiration to make the CGI Christmas Carol in 2009 with Jim Carrey. Coincidence? I think not! The hero girl, I think, doesn't fit the theme about believing in Santa either. And the lonely poor kid, or Billy, as what his name is, I'd say the theme he gives is about being more appreciative for what you have, because there are those people out there who aren't as fortunate, and not the snotty know-it-all kid. He doesn't add anything other than the fact that he's just a big pain in the ass. I think the girl is supposed to be there because she has an enthusiasm and gets the experience of life-threatening situations like the ice cracking on a lake, the train going at fast speeds on a roller coaster kind of ride, which probably would have made the train fall off the track, but it's a magic train, so no worries. The only difference is that she believes in Santa while he doesn't. And the engineers don't have anything to do with the theme either, especially Steamer. He carelessly messes with the throttle, the cotter pin slipping out of the throttle as the train is accelerating, he swallows it, and losing the ticket has nothing to do with the theme either, and the caribou on the tracks do not either. Now let's talk about a particular slip-up this movie had. The one I noticed while having general knowledge of angles is the signs. One says danger, 179 degrees grade. I'd say that's less than 179. Definitely less than 179. That's just about as close to a 180 degree angle, which is straight. It's definitely close to 90 degrees, but that drop is not close enough to being a straight angle. Time for class, folks. Sit down. Time for basic geometry. What you will need is a compass for making angles, and a protractor for measuring them. Acute angle, less than 90 degrees. Right angle, exactly 90 degrees. Obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees. A straight angle is precisely 180 degrees. Reflex angles are neither 360 degrees or 180 degrees exact. They're between 359 and 181 degrees. And a panoramic angle is precisely 360. It's basically adding 180 with an extra 180 or multiplying 180 by 2. Basic knowledge of angles. Now let's talk about the idea of making a storybook into a movie. It's not a bad idea per se, but this movie wasn't worthy of a movie. It did have moments where there were scenes that were just like in the book, sure, but the storybook wasn't meant to be made into a movie. It just wasn't. Another thing I noticed was that the storybook doesn't emphasize enough the main character's skepticism of Santa like the movie does. The first page has an excerpt when it said that it wasn't the kid who didn't believe in Santa, it was his friend. The book says that the conductor pulls him along. In the movie, he hops aboard himself. The book states that they ate candy with nougat centers when that wasn't in the movie. They were basically just drinking just hot chocolate. So that's another thing. Here's the things that made the movie not good. The uncanny valley, the characters not having names, except for one who we don't know until later on in the movie, the events that do not tie into the movie's theme about believing in Santa. From what I've researched, it turns out that in a cutscene, Smokey and Steamer reveal that the hobo is actually a ghost who died after riding on top of the train that was heading for that tunnel. That cutscene is what revealed their names. Smokey, who shovels coal into the burner, and Steamer, who drives the train and manages the controls. During production, Michael Jeter was voicing the engineers at the time, and he passed away. He was epileptic and he had a seizure, and that was the cause of Michael's death. Man, oh man, I will never forget him as Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street. In conclusion, The Polar Express made a good book. The illustrations were good. As good as the soundtrack is at times, it just wasn't enough to shadow the fact that the storybook could not be made into an hour-and-a-half long movie. Well, that covers everything that I feel needed to be talked about. If you guys liked the video, drop a like, comment, share, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys later. Take care, Merry Christmas, and so long. For now.